Hi, welcome to My Ag Life. This is Taylor. I'm here today with Fatemeh Kohdadadi, who's a subtropical plant pathologist. We're here at the South Valley Conference in Tulare, California at the International Agri Center. Fatemeh, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here today. You just gave a really great talk on Phytophthora root rot and dry root rot, some of the similarities and differences there in managing it. So I had a couple questions for you on that. You said in the presentation that they can actually co-infect citrus trees, which is, that can be really problematic for a grower, especially here in the South Valley, a lot of citrus. What does that look like? How can dry root rot and Phytophthora actually co-infect a tree at the same time?
So citrus dry root rot is a weak pathogen. Obviously, it infects the trees when Phytophthora is available or other soil-borne pathogens like nematodes are available. So there are some research showing that pre-infection with Phytophthora or co-infection with Phytophthora and some nematodes can really exacerbate this disease. Your question is how? So this synergistic impact between two diseases, imagine two pathogens coming together and causes symptoms. Obviously, we see highest level of symptoms for Phytophthora and both Fusarium. And also, we see for Phytophthora in general, it's a gradual disease, so it doesn't kill the tree immediately. But then when dry root rot comes in, if Phytophthora is already there, then it can simply collapse the tree and kills the tree in a shorter period of time. So that's why it's important for us to look into the co-infection between Phytophthora and dry root rot. If they're alone, I think the damage of each is way less than when they're together, obviously.
Yeah, and
I hope that helps.
yeah, when you've seen trees that are co-infected, you mentioned they die a lot faster. How often do you see that though out in the field, for example, that they're actually co-infecting rather than separate?
So I can't really say it's only Phytophthora. There have been some orchards that I visited, and the soil was already tested for Phytophthora and nematodes. They were positive, and now we see the tree are being killed and collapsed by dry root rot. That shows obviously nematode and Phytophthora are really playing a part here. The situation was really bad, but also in those orchards that I visited, there were other stress factors like flooding, over watering or waterlogging. So I can't point into one here in this particular case that I visited, but obviously when we have stress factors like Phytophthora or other, let's say, environmental factors, it can definitely make the trees worse in case of diseases.
Certainly. And obviously, those diseases individually, the management, there's some similarities, there's some differences, but when they're co-infecting, how do you manage two at the same time? Is that just a completely different strategy altogether?
It's not like completely different strategies. They're soil-borne pathogens. In terms of Phytophthora, we usually recommend and put the emphasis on the water management because water is really important. But when it comes to dry root rot, water is not necessarily a big key here for this disease like Phytophthora. But of course, other stress factors, underwatering or overwatering in case of dry root rot could be an issue. So any type of stress could be a problem. In terms of management, there are some similarities, obviously, cultural practices, not necessarily less watering the trees, but maybe try to reduce any type of stress in this case. So I can, okay, I hope I'm not messing up here.
No, that's
Which
perfect.
I am.
And so, another thing I was wondering about is you really emphasized in your presentation the role of nurseries in both preventing and managing these diseases. A lot of the times it starts at the nursery, and you mentioned that you're kind of working with nurseries kind of to come up with solutions here. What is their role in all of this?
So we're dealing with some soil-borne fungi here, like Phytophthora and Fusarium. They're everywhere. They're omnipresent, right? In nursery soils or in orchards. The reason why we started from nurseries is not because the nurseries are the source for this disease. It's just because we have this complete look for both Phytophthora and dry root rot from nurseries all the way to the orchards. And the reason why we were going to the nurseries because there were some rootstocks, showing higher level of, let's say, susceptibility to Fusarium dry root rot and combination with Phytophthora. So we decided to look into the susceptibility of those rootstock, which can definitely help nurseries and growers in the long run. And that was the reason. In general, for any type of disease, if trees are purchased from nurseries and they're infected, they can introduce the disease to the orchard. But when it comes to soil-borne pathogens like Phytophthora and Fusarium, they're really everywhere, and I can't say they particularly come from nurseries to the orchard. But the reason why we targeted nurseries is just helping them and collaborating with them to find the more resistant and tolerant rootstock for this disease.
Certainly. And, one other thing, the grower kind of plays a role there too. If they're buying trees from the nursery, they should be kind of looking at them, like you said in the presentation, inspecting them just to make sure everything kind of looks in order, that the rootstocks are actually healthy, that they're not putting a diseased plant into their groves.
That is correct. Usually for any type of disease, we always recommend if you buy materials from nurseries, you got to just make sure that you're buying, let's say, free disease and certified trees, and it also applies for Phytophthora in this case.
Fantastic. Fatemeh, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.